we would like to welcome you to our inaugural recording of what is going to go on, we hope, for many, many weeks, answering your questions about marketing and content. And do be aware, wherever and however you're watching this, if you have a question, let us know about it because we can deal with that, can't we, Mark, in the next one.
Absolutely.
And before we formally introduce ourselves, a huge welcome. And today, just to let you know, we're going to look at a case study, actually, someone in the UK that we've both been advising and working with. But Mark, over to you, Mr. Marketing. Let's tell our new and revisiting audience about you.
Well, thank you very much, Susan. First of all, it's an honor and a pleasure to be with you again. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark Newsom. I go by the moniker of Mr. Marketing. But by and large, what you need to know about me is I help small business owners, entrepreneurs, startup, and service providers get more bang for their buck for less money, less effort.
Amazing. And I also benefit from Mark's wisdom, and my area of expertise as an educator, my background is education, is looking at the content on the social media platforms and how you can present your content easily and effectively with the great ideas. So, Mark, shall we dive into our case study today?
Let's do it. I'm looking forward to this.
Okay. Well, first for me, a little bit of background. And one of the benefits of us doing this together is that we got different cultural perspectives, different geographical norms. So Mark's sitting in, where are you exactly, Mark?
I'm in the States, in the big state of Texas.
Okay, amazing. I've visited and I love it. And I'm sitting in the much smaller country of the UK, which I believe fits 2.5 times into Texas. Amazing. Which is worth
Wow.
mentioning because marketing can be different depending on the location and so many
Absolutely.
factors. Yeah, it
Absolutely.
is. It's a small country, the UK. So to get down to business, because this session will run for about 30 minutes, so we can deliver value and ideas quickly and effectively to help you. Coffee shop. So on my beachfront, there was a couple of years ago a really nice vendor, fantastic coffee. I think, did you call them coffee vans, caravans, Mark, in the States when they've got those?
That'll work. That term will work.
That don't work, so we can all understand each other. Amazing coffee, amazing products, and the problem there was the footfall. There wasn't enough traffic. So I think our first quick message is if you're not in the right place, however good your product, you have to be in the right place for your clients to reach you. So yeah, the coffee shop was on the seafront with, as I said, with brilliant products, but not the right customers passing by. And just by chance, passing by, talking to Dave, the owner, I said, "Did you know there's a space in the sports centre?" So that's the beginning of the story. So Dave moved his coffee concession to the sports centre, and the rest is history, sort of,
Mhm.
because now he's expanding. And this is when Mark and I were having a conversation about price. So over to you, Mark, because we were talking about price, weren't we, and how to attract new customers. And Dave, the vendor, was talking about a 10% discount, which didn't impress us, did it?
Not at all. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, a couple of things Susan just hit on that are very, very important. Don't try to make a bad location work.
Mm,
And she will tell you in the content realm, and I'll let her, really, because that's one of her expertise. Don't try to make your information fit your market. Try to find a market for your information. And so, by the same token, if you're in the wrong location, try to get in the right location because it's just 10, you're pushing a rock up a hill when you do that.
mm,
And this gentleman was smart enough to realize that and take her advice and move. But what some people stubbornly do is, like, say, for instance, you're on social media. You want to send out stuff about what you like instead of what your audience, potential audience likes. That's a big mistake. So the
absolutely.
short of that, and what she and I were talking about was once this guy got in the right location, that was the beginning of his marketing and promoting and maybe traditional advertising. So
Mm,
it's very, very, very important. Online, Susan, right? We call this targeting. So
yeah.
you have to make sure, in other words, if you're a meat eater, I mean, excuse me, if you are marketing meat products, don't try to go convince people who are vegetarian to eat meat and vice versa. And this is what most people do. I used to do it. You sort of browbeat people into what you want them to do. It just doesn't work.
True. Yeah, it's such a good lesson, isn't it? Because we all have our pet projects and things we like to do, and it's a big mistake. We've got to think of it with a business hat on, haven't we?
Absolutely. In
It's,
fact, just one other thing, and I hope we can get all our stuff, Susan, but
yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, a lot of the music industry is data driven. In other words, they put a song out in different markets, and what they're trying to determine is what market resonates with this song the best.
right.
And they let the numbers, which they should, tell them what you and I would say is, oh, well, my gut tells me. And see, that's where we go astray. When you use email, make sure you are split testing your subject lines.
Yeah.
You try subject headline A, depending on who opened it, and then the people who didn't open, you send a completely different subject line. You leave everything else the same. You're trying to find out what heats up the water the most. And you let your market tell you. Susan could write one headline that got her a 78% open rate. I could send that same headline to my audience and get a 13% open rate. What's the difference? It may not be my audience's jam. It may not be your audience's jam. So you got to find out how to target a message that your audience now it starts out, Susan, right, with gut. You say, okay, I
Yeah.
think, but then you let the data tell you. Get your ego and your emotions out of the way. And that's kind of hard to do. It's a challenge.
It is, yeah. And when Dave moved to the local sports centre in the UK, which incidentally was like 3 minutes walk from where he was originally, but the local sports centre has got a footfall. And we could say it was very lucky that they had a spot and they wanted someone to make the coffees, teas and put their business in there. But you make your own luck in many ways, don't you?
Absolutely.
And then I think he learnt that he expanded too quickly. He employed a lot of staff, then he cut it down. But it's working. It's really good. He went from selling, Marky, sometimes he would tell us, he would tell you that he was taking maybe 15, £20 a day. That's probably about $25 a day, to now being in the UK VAT registered, meaning that his income is really high enough to have that extra sales tax on, which, we won't go into that area, but the
Right.
success is nominal. So price, yeah. So recently he was running an offer of 10% off a coffee, and I thought, oh, Dave, I'm not that impressed. Thank you. But
Exactly.
so Mark, over to you. What's your view on that?
Well, you know what you bring is so many points, but
Yeah,
I want to touch on something she said. She said, you noticed that when he moved to the new location, there was football. Uh,
yeah.
was
Football
it,
match.
athletes who played football?
Yeah, well, I was talking about the footfall in general, but when we were talking before we started recording, absolutely, football teams, basketball teams are now
Oh,
playing in this area, and he's catering for the food, which is and drink, which is amazing.
okay, a couple of things. We just see, ladies and gentlemen, you let the market tell you. You don't tell the market. A couple of things she just hit on. If I'm Dave, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to allow whatever the sports venue is, women, men, I don't care. As long as I'd say high school and up, they get. I would say if he doesn't have an app, because he may not, he can create a old school laminated card. It's a lifetime. You pay a one-time fee of X, $10, $5, $20, whatever it is. It gets laminated. They come in and they get an extra large beverage of their choice at a
Mm,
huge discount because this will cause them to go yap it up to their friends.
yeah,
I would
absolutely.
make sure all the vendors in there got the same. Like, in other words, let me just show you an old school strategy, ladies. It was powerful when you sell beverages. You have a big giant cup, a big plastic cup. You call it the big goal. The first time they come in, they pay retail. This way he can pay for the cup, pay a little bit on his help, keep the lights on. But when you bring it back from now on, let's say it sells for $11.99. And again, these don't take
Yeah.
the numbers, get the concept. $11.99 the first time. Every time they come back, it's $3.99 as long as they bring the cup.
Mm,
Now, what he could do is just give all the businesses in his local area a cup. So now they just come in and pay the $3.99. Where do
yeah.
you think they're going to come? And if he's got, as Susan said, great tasting coffee to begin with, now he'll make more of the money on the back end. What do you mean, Mark? The pastries, the donuts, and whatever else he sells.
Yeah,
He sells that at
exactly.
retail. But he gets the word of mouth. He gets these people taking pictures on social media with his cup Or he can invite one of the teams to come in on a certain day and they sit there and they Facebook Live. You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? This is how you grow the business. If there's a hair salon, like let's say Susan had a hair salon, I'm making friends with Susan. I'm giving her and all her stylists cups. Say, Susan, from now when you come in, you you don't pay my first time price. You just pay this lower price. And then I say, here's my business card, Susan. You flip it over, put your initials on it. Everybody you give that card, they come in, they pay the lower price the first time for my cup, and they
Yeah.
pay the same when they come back from now. That's the kind of thing you should be doing.
Absolutely, and in our local British context, all those ideas would absolutely work. And even for businesses in the simplest format, often we have card loyalty cards here. But again, have that signature or that special stamp on it. I give it to my friend, and they get their first coffee half price, or get two or three stamps. Because what happens here, Mark, is often every time you go to the shop, you get a little stamp on your card if there's not an app, as you said. And when you've got 10 stamps, you get a free coffee, which is sort of quite fun, but it's not a huge deal. But imagine if I can give out a couple of cards to close friends, maybe half filled already, or as you said, take this card along to Dave, our friend Dave here, and he'll give you a free coffee or at cost, whatever. And it spreads, doesn't it? So as Mark
Absolutely.
said, don't think about the numbers, but apply what works in your situation. But the theory is brilliant.
In fact, let me just clarify something so you don't miss a profit center that she's talked about, ladies and gentlemen. If let's say Susan was the hair salon or the nail salon, when I tell her, I say, Susan, the only reason I'm asking you to put your initials on here so I know where these leads are coming from. When she gives them the card, they come in, bring the card one time. They don't have to bring it back. They get the beverage of their choice and they don't pay retail. They
Mm,
get the discount. That's why I'm having her put her initials. When I look at the card, I say, "Oh, this is from Susan." So they get the lower price of $3.99. Then I just tell them, "Hey, every time you bring that cup back, you still pay the same price." I
hmm.
want to get them coming frequently, and I also want to get them on the back end. I could have a birthday club. Maybe these people have kids. Well, I
Yeah,
want you to come in and get your stuff from me or if I got an arrangement with the bakery, I send them to the bakery. The
yeah,
point is, ladies and gentlemen, you're coming in contact with all of these people. Don't just sell them your stuff.
yeah,
There's a what we Susan and I call a back end, right? Susan, to do
yeah.
business.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You
Yeah.
could, in fact, ladies and gentlemen, let me just one other thing because I know we want to keep this tight, Susan, but I want to have them open up. Let's say Susan has a retail appliance center store. She's non-franchise, so she's the boss, and she can kind of do what she wants.
I like that.
I'm Dave. I've got the coffee place. Susan says to me, she says, Mark, let me ask you a question. What is one of the highest selling products you have in here? And I tell her, and she says, what's your profit margin? And I'm not even sure, but I go figure it out. I said, oh, Susan, 74% on this. And she's like, wow, that's impressive. She says, you know what, Mark? This radio and television and local billboards and newspapers, that stuff is outrageously expensive, as you can well imagine. She says, I'll tell you what I do. I got
Yeah.
some cards here. I want you to initial them. You either put them in the bag when the people buy something, or you have them up on the counter. And what it does, she says, or no, not on the counter. I'm sorry, because that's too passive. She says, every time somebody buys something, there's a bag, you
Hmm.
initial it, and you put a 3-day window marker, whatever the date is, 3 days from now, even if it's a holiday, the third day, doesn't matter. You put that date in there and you tell the customer, and you have whoever works cash register tell the customer, as long as you bring this to Susan's retail appliance store, two stores down within this date, if you drag a friend with you who's at least 18, she'll give you X%, 25, 30. It's got to be something sexy, 35, 40% off your
Yeah.
first purchase, provided you join her opt-in email list. Now, here's the point. Susan tells me, Mark, every time one of these gets redeemed, meaning they buy something, I don't care what they buy, I'm giving you $50. I go, what? She says, yeah. You should tell your staff if they want in, same thing. They just initial it so I know who to pay. And she says, no, but now here's the good thing. From the 10th sale on, 11th sale on, it's $100.
Mm.
Wow.
It,
So you're telling me if I pass out 100 of these in a month and 20 people uh, come in and do business with you after the 10th sale, I'm going to make $100. And she says, yeah, do the math.
mm,
Now, why would Susan do that? Because she doesn't want to pay for radio and TV and billboards
yeah.
and all that other crap. She's saying it's
Personal
way
referrals.
cheaper, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's the kind of thing. Now, what I'm point is, what she's showing me is you don't have to just make money off what you sell. There's other vendors out here who need your
Mm.
exact same customer, and you're lower. What I'm really helping her do is lower her lead generation costs, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're trying to get you to see. And if
Exactly.
I can do it with Susan, Susan says, Mark, I can hook you up with 4 other non-directly competing vendors.
So everyone benefits when it's non-competing vendors.
In fact, I'm saying, so Susan points out to me, because I don't see this, and she says, Mark, you don't have to just do this with me. You can do this with 4 or 5 other non-directly competing vendors and be getting paid to lead generate for them. In which case, I might be able to just pay my lease for what I'm doing with her and these other
Mm.
vendors.
Absolutely. And to relate it to our original case study of Dave, what you've just said with the coffee shop. Now, folks, imagine that we've got the gym in the UK and we're on the seafront, and then within 3 minutes walking distance is a row of little craft shops. So those craft shops, just taking Mark's example exactly, maybe on a smaller scale, but it's all relative to the business. Thank you very much for buying the cushion, the print, the towel, the photograph. Here's a card. The coffee shop is 3 minutes away. Present this card. And, obviously the vendor, Dave in the coffee shop, can make his own deal. It might be that the card will get 3 or 4 stamps on it, working towards a free coffee. It might be that the first coffee, or buy one, get one free, but the fine details can be worked out. But that vendor is pointing out there's a great coffee shop there. And I have seen, again, in this case study, Dave has got t-shirts hanging up, just does it as a courtesy to the local printers, the handcraft people. He sells the t-shirts, doesn't take any profit for it. And there's a connection already there, and it's
Absolutely.
working very well. But they can make it so that, as Mark said, you've got that mutual benefit and you don't have to pay all the advertising costs. And then even sign up for the email, obviously getting permissions, and we'll let you know of future offers, events, a lot of things that go on in the area. So it's relative to the businesses and the events, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But you can do it electronically, you can do it with a simple card, you can do it just with a simple signature on the back of the card, or with an
In
app.
fact, let me piggyback off something Susan said, because this is very powerful. Ladies and gentlemen, when you see these offers, buy so many, 5, 10, and
Mm-hmm.
then on the 10th, when you get it free, test that against this.
Mm-hmm.
Every purchase, they save X, and then they get the last one free. So if it's 5, they say 10, 20, 30, 40, not 40%, meaning 10% each time.
Yeah.
10%, 10%, 10%, then the last one's free. If it's 10 purchases and you get them front, they save 10% off, 10% off, 10% off, 10% off, to the last one's free. In other words, don't make them wait all the way to the
Oh,
end.
no, exactly.
Reward them along the trail. There's so much,
You could,
ladies and gentlemen, there is just so much you
yeah,
can
there
do.
really is. And also, again, in this example, I know that Dave, because I drink his coffee regularly, unlike most other vendors in the area, he doesn't charge an extra in UK money, 30, 40, half a dollar basically, for non-dairy milk. So he could have on this card, to what Mark just said. Remember, we don't charge for different dietary needs. Your oat milk, your coconut milk, your almond milk, it's all included. And that's very rare here in the UK. Most times the price is
Wow.
bumped up. So in a way, we are getting something free, but it's not being shouted about. So we have to make our customers feel good and know in a sort of gentle way that's, appropriate to the business. So we've talked about price, we've talked about working with other people, loyalty cards. And the other thing we touched on, Mark, wasn't it, was also making sure that other businesses are aware of what you do and just giving a gentle shout out with no necessarily no reward there. The example I had was I went to the gym one day, did a class, and the instructor said, "Don't forget to have your coffee at XYZ." And I think, oh my goodness, they meant well, but they didn't mention the coffee shop downstairs. They mentioned another one in the location. So free choice for everyone, of course, but make sure the people in your area know who you are and where you are, is my message. I don't know, Mark, if you have something to add to that point.
Absolutely. In fact, I'm glad I would have forgot Susan, but she made several excellent points. But let me share one thing that she and I talked about.
Mhm.
Dave could test having vendor of the month where he just
Yes.
puts their name up there with a picture or the location of the business, and they let their customers know, hey, you're going to Dave's, he's got a special offer for you. And it's not a one-time thing. It's a, again, with the cup, you come in, you pay retail the first time, Dave gives you a cup, and from now on when you come back, you save X. That's
Hmm.
and if they have email, they can send this out. They can let their vendors know. Ladies and
Hmm.
gentlemen, I guarantee you, if Susan and I worked diligently with this guy's business, just with the helping his vendors, networking with his customers, getting more referrals, this guy could really be sitting on an untapped gold mine more than he already is.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
if
'Cause
he's left to do it himself, Susan, he probably won't do all this stuff.
no, exactly. Because when you're a solopreneur and you have one or two members of staff, time is short. And the ideas we're talking about, in just boiling down to their simplest forms, they're not complicated and not time consuming. Obviously, it does take some time. We're not denying that, but it's not going to be, I would say it's quicker than ads doing a newspaper ad or a social media ad and all the, yeah, let's not even go there because that's complicated.
In fact, let's point something else out too, because she brought up social media. I'd like to say it like this, Susan. Ladies and gentlemen, think of marketing on social media like sleeping on your ex in law's couch. One day they may come home and say, hey, Susan, I love you. You got to go.
Yeah,
Where's it going to leave her?
exactly.
Homeless. So you
Yeah.
say, what are you saying, Mark? Don't 100, and you know what? Let me, Susan, I hope I don't offend anybody, but I got to speak to the millennials because they are notorious about this.
Yeah,
You're
it's
only
true.
building on social media. This is
Yeah,
a big mistake. Your
that's
Titanic is headed
true.
for an iceberg. If your account gets temporarily shut down, Susan, didn't we just hear a young lady yesterday
Yeah.
say that she had some trouble with Facebook?
Yeah, she
Well,
lost the whole account, didn't she?
right? The account, if they, and she says, you can't get a hold of anybody. Okay, well, how are you going to run a business if it's predicated on the fact that the people who
Yeah.
hold all the cards aren't returning your emails?
Yeah, and
Out
they
of
won't,
business. So
you,
you say, okay, well, what's the alternative? Are you saying not to build on social media? No, Susan and I are all over social media, but you got to get them off of social media onto your own opt-in email list. And the people who are telling you email is dead, that's a bunch of nonsense, ladies and gentlemen.
it is, it really is. And when I go into bigger shops and you sign into your card or you get the in-store discount, they always ask for your email, obviously with permission, and you get the email. So yes, it might take a little longer if you're a solopreneur. You might have to find a good way to grab that emails, but don't just leave it to social media. And if your business is local, sometimes you find that you're relying on the passing footfall, and that can change. For example, um, the gym that I'm talking about, it's in the middle of what we call park runs, like half marathons. It gets a lot of people going past. But if they change their route one day, they won't be going past. And yes, there may be something else, but just bear in mind not only social media, which is what so many people ignore, can crash, but other factors can change and alter things. So always have two or three plans up your sleeve and your regular customers and those connections so that you can help each other. In the same way, sort of coming to a close of what we're saying today, Dave has the t-shirts hanging up in his coffee shop because he's aware that not so many people pass by where the t-shirt print designer has their stall. So he's saying, hey, this person's down there. Do you know about them? So we've covered a lot, Mark, and we could talk about price, vendor of the month, and this can be done for any business. But what we do want to impress is if you have an example, if you have a question, this is your opportunity to come in, to contact us, and the details will be in the details below. Or if you got this recording in an email, respond, let us know what your question is, and we can deal with it on air. And of course, if you want the marketing magic, contact Mark directly. He'll be able to help you one on one.
That's,
If you want to know more about content on your social media, remembering that it could disappear any day, give me a
that's
shout
right.
out.
See her.
But we will
Let me say one other thing before
go,
we
Mark.
shut this thing down. So,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, she mentioned the email, and a lot of people are turned off when they're at the counter and they're asked for it. Offer a free drawing with something sexy that your audience would say, I would pay for that. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
very powerful. And like she said, if you have any questions, contact us directly. We're glad to help
And Mark, I just have to clarify there because this is such a different word in English. And you called it a free drawing, right? And I'm
you.
thinking
Right, right,
picture. We call it a
right, right. Oh,
raffle.
What would you
So,
call it over there? I'm sorry.
a raffle.
A raffle. Okay. Well, see, in America, when we say raffle, people normally pay. So
Oh,
that's why we stay away from raffles, you know. But in other words, ladies and gentlemen, like say she owns an appliance store. She offers a 75-inch television as the giveaway. So there's people in the store and they see that, you know, they're going to enter because they want that
yeah,
75-inch television, that kind of thing. And one other concept that she and I didn't get a chance to touch on, ladies, but it's very important. You got to know what your customers are worth. So when you get off of here at some point, go look up on YouTube and Google what is lifetime customer value. When you get a
yeah,
constant, get an understanding of that, now you know how much you can pay to advertise on or offline. So it's very
yeah.
important.
And in a coffee shop example, a raffle or a drawing in the States, is that what you call it, a drawing?
Yes,
It might be when you know your lifetime, your customer's lifetime value, it might be a prize of a week's, a coffee a day for a week or something like that, which is very, very attractive. And for the small amounts it costs the coffee vendor to give that away. And to be honest, I don't think someone will be able to drop by every day, but the generosity of spirit, and that's something yeah, okay, I'm going to take a buy a coffee, take a ticket so that I might win a free coffee for a week. It's very, very attractive. So our message is keep it simple, keep it easy, look around you. And as Mark's just said, please do contact us. We're going to do this at least twice a month, so you will have an opportunity to give us your situation and share it with the world. We don't necessarily have to give your business name, but we can go through the examples for your particular business. That will be up to the person that asked the question, won't it, Mark?
absolutely. It would be our pleasure to do it. And the other thing, ladies and gentlemen, she just said, you know, that's a great idea of giving away a coffee a day for a week, or they could give away a 10-pound bag, 25-pound bag of gourmet coffee. In other words, something sexy enough that people say, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
That would make an excellent
Yeah.
carrot. In other words, you know, something that will attract a magnet that will attract people and
Yeah.
get people talking. And that's
Exactly.
what you
Sorry, because to go back to I think where we more or less started, while the idea of offering 10% discount sounds nice, it's not going to be something that anyone will remember. But if they get a coffee deal with the cup, or if they get enter a drawing or raffle for a prize that is worth talking about, hey, I hope I'm going to be lucky and win that week's coffee or the bag of coffee beans, whatever. Make it something that can be a little bit of a conversation piece, not got
mm-hmm.
10% discount today, which might just make it the same price as the next coffee shop. So I think let's wrap it up there, Mark. What do you think? Have we shared
That
enough
sounds good
your
to me.
wisdom?
I think we've given them more than enough food for thought. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for listening, whether you found us on YouTube, in an email that we've sent to you, on the podcast, on a reel. It's been a huge pleasure to share Mark the stage with you and talk about these
Likewise.
across the pond ideas. Thank you very much. Till next time. Remember, all the contact details for us will be where you have seen this video. Thank you. Bye bye from me.
Bye bye for me. See you next time.
Thank you.